Hello again, fellow Gears. What's up? It's Amaticon bringing you another Gears 5 speedrun tutorial. This one is on District. Now, this version of District was created by Bad Wolf Willy. And we need to give a huge shout out and special thank you to Big in the Game, Miss Steal Your Kill, Wickedly Innocent, Dr. Schwazi, and Grizzled Hulk. We go into this run with the setup of Dell, Baird, JD, Kate, and Jack. Of course, you can substitute those classes with whatever you'd like to. There are 4 required stationary spots. Jack is the only official free floater. Just a fair warning to you, this is a big map and can be a sweaty speedrun, but it's still a lot of fun to do. Now, the enemies on this version spawn in the arcade, hotel, bandstand, and versus spawns. Now, that sounds like a lot, but really it's not that difficult once you run it. Okay, so this versus spawn here is where you'll get some spawn, and then there's also a tiny spawn right here, so you want to keep your barriers behind that. And then the other spawn here on this side is going to be down here by the arcade, down there. And then this is where we stick JD. His stationary required spot is pretty much anywhere, just being this general vicinity. It's not super picky as long as you're over here. And JD is being healed by Jack throughout the wave. Each wave as that goes. And there also is a really tiny weak overflow spawn here by the arcade room doors. We just put the forge here and that just shuts it down immediately. You won't have to worry about that spawn at all. Now the engineer spot to be each wave is over here. This is where we usually keep Dell. Not too picky on, anywhere in the general vicinity will work, but I like being here so I can shoot into the spawn. And everything is going to be exactly mirrored on this map pretty much between the two sides here. So you'll get some spawn down here in the hotel, and then you'll get spawn down there in the verses as well. And then this little spawn right outside here, keep your barriers behind that. Occasional spawn right there. And this is where we keep Kate. And again, it's not super picky on where she's at, just in the general vicinity. I like having her here so I can see both spawns. And then you can bounce back and forth in between cover as needed. Now on the Canal side as well, there is this tiny weak overflow spawn here by this door. You can shut this down with a decoy, or what I will usually do is put a sentry here and then a grenade as well, and that should shut it down. And then of course use the sentry aimed in the versus spawn to get kills as well. Now the engineer on this side, we usually stick Baird. It's going to be over here. Anywhere in this general vicinity will work. It's not too picky. I like to be right here so I can shoot into the spawn, but wherever your choice is will work. And then there's also this middle spawn here in the bandstand room that you gotta watch out for. They'll spawn here on the left inside the bandstand room, and then the right. Now obviously you're gonna get barriers here and then sentries set up, but early on, before you get those set up, watch out, they will filter through there in the middle and come around and try to flank you. Now let's talk about robot waves and robot spawns. Like all speedruns, robot waves odd spawn out a few times. This side here by the engineer on the Canal side, you can set up a kill box. So just you can move from there to here, and with your kill box you can kill them like in cover from there, or you can do it on this side. Usually just get like a barrier, decoy, or sentry. And I'll have some footage showing some kill boxes later on in this tutorial. So, but it's also mirrored over here for the other engineer. His usual spot is the robot overflow odd spawn here. So you just move your spot from out in the open to in cover here, so you can shoot at the robots with your kill box set up, or also right here works really well as well. Now when we first set this up, we will power level the forge to level 4 first, and then we'll build lockers for the DPSers, and then we'll start getting barriers, starting on the arcade and hotel spawns, and then we'll start getting the versus spawns up with barriers, and on the other side as well. And then we'll come to the middle here. First of course we'll throw down a couple barriers, and then the first sentries we buy we put here in the middle just to shut this down and stop them from flanking us. And then from there, of course, we'll start building out sentries on each side with the engineers. As far as the bosses and the mini bosses go, they can spawn there in the verses. They can also spawn here in the arcade. Pretty much just about everywhere they spawn, you can pull one, and Kestrel can spawn up here. And then the rest of the bosses, mini bosses, can also spawn here in the hotel, spawn as well as the other verses spawn over here. So just a heads up on mini boss waves. We'll go ahead now and show you the Fabricator location. It's not really a picky fabricator. You just want to get it as close as you can here to this fountain. And then you want it on the metal beams here in the middle, which I'll show you. Basically in between the metal beam there and there, and then up against the fountain. But with that, that is the district speedrun tutorial, and all the gameplay footage and all the fun is coming right up. Now here is a kind of top side view of the two spawns with Jack. This is on the bridge and arcade spawn side, and this is where we keep JD. Obviously with all the GLs going off, you can see all the kills he gets racked up. And then over on the other side where we stick Kate, this is the hotel and canal spawn again. Kind of view all the carnage in action, and it is a lot of fun to play Kate on this run, going back and forth between these two spawns. Absolutely love it. Gotta try it. Great stuff. And here is just a clip on what an important and pivotal role Jack plays on this speedrun. He is constantly healing JD during each wave, because JD over here on the bridge side doesn't have a lot of cover to go into to shoot both spawns. So you always want Jack over here with JD on the bridge spawn healing it. Now here on the bridge arcade spawn side where we put JD, he's constantly getting healed by Jack. But if you look at the view that I'm going to show you right here, this is what you want to kind of have a view set up during the wave, so you can see which of the two spawns is heavier. You can react accordingly, because sometimes it will vary. One spawn will be heavier than the other, and you can concentrate more fire on the one spawn that's heavier. And the same thing goes over here for Kate's on the Canal Hotel spawn. You see this view that I have of both spawns here in cover. One spawn is usually heavier than the other, so again you can concentrate more firepower on that spawn that is heavier. It alternates sometimes every wave. Planning a grenade early on really helps as well. And just want to showcase here, instead of taking a fortification the long way around, you can actually just come pop the fortification in the environment here, and then pick it up and move it to where you want to, so you don't have to go all the way around. Save you a little bit of time. And the same thing goes for the other side, believe it or not. It's mirrored. So take your barrier for fortification, so you don't have to go the long way around. Pop it into the environment, and then you can grab it and move it to where you need to more efficiently. Now I want to showcase on the bridge arcade spawn here, you see the forge. That's where we stick the forge. That is a weak overflow spawn, so the forge will shut that down. And then also need to showcase the barriers you have out a bit this way, because there is a weak spawn there that you will get an occasional spawn, including down there, that you'll get spawn each wave. But watch out for that weak spawn there. You want to keep your barriers behind it so they don't spawn in front of your barriers. And it is completely mirrored on this side. Here is a weak overflow spawn. You can shut that down with a sentry and a nade or a decoy. Just a heads up for that on the Canal Hotel spawn. And besides the Versus spawn there, you want your barriers out, because again, every so often you will get a weak spawn right there, and you don't want that weak spawn filtering out behind your barriers, of course. So just a heads up on that there. And here is a basic setup of the Canal Hotel spawn. We have a sentry on this side shooting into the versus spawn, your 3 barriers, a decoy right there to aggro to, and then here's that sentry that blocks that weak overflow shooting into the versus spawn, and then 1 sentry shooting into the hotel spawn down here, and a barrier as well, and then a barrier on the back side of the hotel spawn, and then a level 4 sentry here as well. And as I always will say, you know, don't exactly do what we do setup wise. Put your own spin on it, make it yours, always make it better, that's for sure. And we have 2 barriers here in the middle for the bandstand spawn, and 2 sentries as well. 1 left, 1 right. And then over here on Morris's side, this is his basic setup for the bridge arcade spawn. You got 1 sentry shooting into the arcade and a barrier. 2 barriers for the versus spawn and a decoy, and then there's the forge there blocking that weak overflow, and then he has 3 sentries shooting into the main versus spawn here as well. Basic setup for Morris. Now what you're going to see here, this is a middle optional setup. It's a little more advanced than the basic setup you saw earlier. Basically the arcade and hotel in the middle wall, there's a barrier there to prevent spawn from hopping over right there, so they have to filter out another way. And then you'll also notice there's a couple barriers in the bandstand room as well, and with those there you can move the sentries in the middle down, and as soon as they spawn in the bandstand room, the sentries are shooting them and they're stuck on the barriers as well, which is a nice trick. Plus you can add sentries going back to back if you so wish over there on the hotel side. Again, completely optional. Does make the run go a little faster, but is a little sweatier for the engineers. Now over here on the bridge arcade side spawn, this is the robot kill box overflow for the robot waves. I just have a locker, a decoy, and a barrier. I have not added the sentry yet, but as you're going to see, we get a tracker. We also get a DB there as well, and JD can hit his GL over here as well on the robot odd spawns. And then over here on the other side, with the Canal Hotel spawn, I do have a sentry, barrier, decoy, and just be on the ready. And again, this is just for robot waves. If it's leeches or TVs and Amagos, you don't need to worry about any spawn on this kill boxes. But as with just about every speedrun, robots cause odd spawns. And here's a boss wave for you. We pulled a carrier on the hotel side where we stick Kate. You don't even need JD's Death from Above ultimate when Kate has level 5 Blood Resonance and level 5 Laceration. Her bleed damage will take care of a carrier. No problem. And then here is just a quick view of the advanced middle setup in action by the bandstand room. But with that, that concludes the district speedrun tutorial. It is a sweaty run, but is a lot of fun. Enjoy it, everybody. Thank you.